presenter is someone you may know. Bernie has an extensive experience as a policymaker, attorney, and respected leader, having served as Colorado's Secretary of State from 2005 to 2008. If you are having conversations, please take them into the hall so we can hear from our next presenter. So joining us by Zoom, please welcome Bernie Buescher. Bernie, you are on mute. Bernie, you're on mute.
There we go. Thank you, Christian, and thank you to Club 20. I wish I could be there with you in person. I was actually in Denver yesterday for an 8-minute hearing on the matter that I'm going to describe to you. Another thank you to Club 20 for your support in our efforts a year ago to repeal the Gallagher Amendment, which was causing enormous problems for rural Colorado. This measure is a follow-up to that effort. We have seen that it is possible with the repeal of Gallagher for a statewide initiative or referendum that reduces the property tax revenues of local cities, counties, special districts, and school districts. And I think one of the fundamentals of the way we govern in Colorado is local control. Christian, if you could put up the initiative, I'd like everyone to have a chance to see what we are proposing.
Just 2 moments.
Okay. Here we go. And I'm going to give you a few seconds to actually read this. Okay, that was about 15 seconds. This may be the first time that anyone has been able to read a proposed initiative constitutional amendment in 15 seconds. We've had dozens of attorneys working on this, and my job through this is to try to keep the darn thing as simple as possible. But what we are saying, and I think it's clear from the language, is that matters affecting local property tax revenues will be decided at a local basis. It's not our intention, nor does this initiative allow or cause changes in the ability of the legislature to adjust assessment rates, but it does limit those matters which would be decided by initiative or referendum to a local election. As I mentioned, we have filed this as an initiative. The proponent with me on this matter is Ann Terry. I suspect many of you know Ann. She's the head of the Special Districts Association. And I know a number of organizations that I think are in the room today have been following closely this work. I know Colorado Mountain College has been one of the leaders in making sure that we have local control over property tax revenues. And we're quite concerned about the efforts in the last election to impose a statewide reduction in the revenues for our cities, our counties, and our special districts. It's a very simple amendment. We're getting great support. At this point, there is no organized opposition. When we went to review and comment yesterday at the legislature, and I was a little grumpy having to fly all the way to Denver for an 8-minute meeting at which I'm not expected to say anything. Hard for this old guy to not say something, but I behaved. But that's the way that the legislature rules are. I'll stop there. I'd be delighted to handle any questions or comments. We're going to the title board in a couple of weeks, and I suspect that will be on the ballot this fall.
Bernie, can you just clarify, it's a constitutional amendment?
It is a constitutional amendment because the current procedures are in the Constitution. Just from a policy and a personal preference, I would have much preferred to have done this non-constitutionally, but we're dealing with initiative and referendum process, which are laid out in the Constitution. So this necessarily must be in that document. That requires, of course, the 55% approval.
That was my next question. 55%, because it's amending an existing part of the Constitution.
That's correct.
Okay. Questions? Rachel Richards has a question.
Rachel, how are you? How's Aspen?
It's doing good. We've had some good snow. Thank you, Bernie. I just don't drive all the way to these things without asking a few questions or making comments. Frankly, I was appalled to see the governor endorse the property tax reductions across the state of Colorado, and for a couple of reasons. But the state does not get property tax, and they are forbidden from charging property tax. And so to go after the local communities' revenue sources during the pandemic, when many of us have gone into deficit spending already, was just despicable. And, you know, I personally was a supporter, our county was supportive of the river districts. I had a few concerns there, mill levy, but to have seen that measure pass this fall, while the river district is dealing with unprecedented drought, would have just wiped out any gain that we had put forward for them to protect the West Slope agriculture and water resources. And so, you know, my feeling is if the state wants to reduce expenses for the citizens, the state should reduce its sales tax component or its income tax component, but leave local governments and community colleges and school districts and hospital districts and fire districts, while we're having the worst wildfire seasons imaginable, out of this. And so I will be happy to gather signatures for you on this initiative. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachel. You know, some part of this is in response to 120, but I also believe that it is fundamentally wrong for people in Denver to be voting on the funding for the Colorado River Water Conservation District, when part of the purpose of that organization is to prevent diversions across the mountain. I also think it's wrong for me, living in Mesa County, to be voting on the funding for the Scientific and Cultural District in downtown Denver. So I think this measure stands on its own merits, but it also recognizes the mischief that can be done to rural Colorado by things like 120. Thank you, Rachel.
Do we have other questions for Bernie? There's thumbs up, Bernie.
Well, thank you.
A lot of thumbs up.
It's always good to hear from Clump 20. I do expect that when you get to your spring meeting and policy discussions, that I'll be coming over with hat in hand and saying, please endorse this, help us protect our special districts, our counties, and our cities. Thank you all.
We look forward to it. Thanks, Bernie.
Thank you all.